Good morning, student. This is the 10th lecture of a petroleum refinery and petrochemicals. So today we will discuss about the process of petroleum refinery, that is the catalytic cracking. So today we will discuss the process about catalytic cracking. Okay. So this is nothing but we have discussed earlier that in if you observe in that flow diagram of that overall refinery flow, where we can see that the straight run gasoline which is coming out from the distillation tower, that straight line gasoline that is obtained from that crude distillation unit. So whatever the products coming out as a straight run products, and if it is the gasoline, so it does not have good octane number. Okay, so that straight run gasoline does not have good octane number, so that octane number is near about 40 to 60. Then for the secondary process we need to upgrade the straight run gasoline. Okay, so to upgrade that straight run gasoline, so we need to improve the octane number so that it can increase up to 85 to 95. So to obtain the desired octane number, we have several secondary process like cracking, reforming, isomerization. Okay, so these three are the very most important process to upgrade the octane number, and today we will discuss among these process the catalytic cracking. Okay, so catalytic cracking which involves the decomposition of heavier hydrocarbon feedstocks. It contains, means, what is cracking. Now first we have to know what is cracking. Now as we know that the crude oil contains many large molecules, so if these are to be used as fuels or feedstocks for the chemical industry, so then they have to be cracked into smaller molecules. Okay, if there are the crude oil which are having so many large hydrocarbon molecules in the fuels or the feedstocks for the chemical industry, then we need to be cracked that larger hydrocarbon molecules into the smaller hydrocarbon molecules. When these hydrocarbon molecules burn, they are reacting with oxygen in the air. When there is a cracking operation, then there some hydrocarbons will burn and they are reacting with oxygen in the air. So in general, the smaller molecules, the better it will mix and then react with the air. So smaller the molecule, the better it will mix and then react with the air. So this cracking reaction converts heavy fraction into high value products by providing the high octane number. Okay, so the cracking converts heavy fractions into high value products so that we can get the higher octane number. Now there are two types of cracking. One is thermal cracking, another is catalytic cracking. And thermal cracking, which proceeds via free radical mechanism, where high temperature is needed. And for the catalytic cracking, the cracking reaction proceeds via carbocation or the carbonium ion mechanism process. Okay, in this catalytic process, some catalyst along with some low temperatures are needed to upgrade the gasoline. Okay, so there are two types of cracking. First one is thermal cracking, second one is the catalytic cracking. Okay, Now what are the cracking chemistry? Now if in the cracking mainly this uh, means when we are talking about the cracking, so cracking, it may be the thermal and the catalytic. Okay, so it may be the thermal and the catalytic, and the cracking can be with or without catalyst. With catalyst is the catalytic reaction, and without catalyst is the thermal cracking operation. When this cracking is carried out without a catalyst, higher operating temperature and pressures are required, then that is called the thermal cracking. And this was the principle of old generation refineries, the thermal cracking. Okay, when the cracking is carried out without catalyst, higher operating temperature and pressure are required, then this is called the thermal cracking, and this was the principle of old generation refineries. But nowadays cracking is usually carried out using catalyst. So these catalysts enabled the reduction in operating pressure and temperature drastically by using this catalyst. Okay, so this catalytic cracking enable the reduction in operating pressure and temperature drastically. Now this cracking chemistry, overall this cracking chemistry, it involves, means, as I have mentioned, it breaking down the larger hydrocarbon molecules to smaller hydrocarbon molecules. So larger hydrocarbon molecules means long chain paraffins. Long chain paraffins converted to olefins. Okay, long chain paraffins converted to olefins. And then also we have the straight chain paraffins, that is also converted to branched paraffins. So we are breaking the large hydrocarbon molecules. Long chain paraffins, which is converted to olefins, then the straight chain paraffins, which is converted to branched paraffins. Then also we have the alkylated aromatics, which also converted to the aromatics and paraffins. And then we have ring compounds, which is also converted to alkylated aromatics. So these are the cracking chemistry. We will describe later the catalytic cracking chemistry. This is the overall cracking chemistry. Okay, so as I have mentioned that in thermal cracking we need the high pressure. We need the high pressure, that is 7,000 kilopascal, and the high temperature, that is near about 400 to 900 degrees centigrade, and the mechanism is governed by the free radical mechanism. Next is the homolytic fission, and then the thermal cracking operation produces mostly alkenes. It produces mostly alkenes. So it is ethane for making polymers and ethanol. So thermal cracking produces mostly alkenes. These alkenes means the production of these alkenes is nothing but the ethane for making of polymers and ethanol. Then this thermal cracking produces hydrogen, which is used in the Haber process in margarine manufacture. And in the thermal cracking process, bonds can be broken anywhere. Bonds can be broken anywhere in the molecule by carbon-carbon bond by fission process or carbon-hydrogen bond by fission process. Okay, so bonds can be broken anywhere in the molecule by carbon-carbon bond fission or carbon-hydrogen bond fission. Okay, next is the catalytic cracking process. So as I mentioned, in the catalytic cracking process, high operating temperature and pressures are required in the thermal cracking process, but whenever we are using the catalyst, it enables the reduction in the operating pressure and temperature drastically. So catalytic cracking, the main motivation of the catalytic cracking is the need to increase the gasoline production, is the need to increase the gasoline production. then this catalytic cracking process used to convert heavy fractions such as vacuum gas oil to gasoline range and lighter products. So it converts the heavy fraction. Which heavy fractions? The vacuum gas oil. So it converts the vacuum gas oils to gasoline range and lighter products. And cracking is catalyzed by solid acids. Cracking is catalyzed by this catalytic cracking is catalyzed by solid acids, which promotes the rupture of carbon-carbon bonds. Now, crucial intermediates are the carbonation process. This carbonation process. So this carbonation process is nothing but that is the positive charge of hydrocarbon ions. In the carbonation means a positive charged of hydrocarbon ions. So crucial intermediates are carbonations, which is formed by the action of acid sites on the catalyst. So these carbonations are formed by the action of the acid sites on the catalyst. Okay, so these carbonation are formed by the action of acid sites on the catalyst. So uh, carbon cleavage besides this carbon carbon cleavage, many other reactions are occurring, such as isomerization process, dehydrogenation process, hydrogen transfer process, alkylation process, polymerization process, cyclization and condensation process. So these are the process going on along with this carbon carbon cleavage. So along with this catalytic cracking process, as isomerization process, dehydrogenation, hydrogen transfer, alkylation, polymerization, cyclization and condensation. As we know that the what is alkylation means alkylation. What is alkylation? Alkylation is nothing but the union of olefins, the union of olefins with an aromatic for a paraffinic hydrocarbon. This alkylation is nothing but a union of an olefin with an aromatic for a paraffinic hydrocarbon. And hydrogenation. Hydrogenation is addition of hydrogen to an olefin. Addition of hydrogen to an olefin. Dehydrogenation. Dehydrogenation means the removal of hydrogen. Removal of hydrogen from the molecule. So this dehydrogenation of naphthenes to produce aromatics is an important refining process for naphtha reforming. So this dehydrogenation process of naphthenes of produce aromatics is an important refining process of for naphtha reforming. So this dehydrogenation process is also involved in this catalytic reforming process. Then the isomerization. What is isomerization? This is nothing but the alteration of the arrangement of the atoms, alteration of the arrangement of the atoms in a molecule without changing the number of atoms of the numerous conversion process. Okay, so this isomerization is alteration of the arrangement of the atoms in a molecule without changing the number of atoms of the numerous conversion process, and which is applied in the petroleum refinery. Okay, and what is polymerization? This polymerization is nothing but a linking of similar molecules, linking of similar molecules that joining together of light olefins, Okay, so these are the process: isomerization, dehydrogenation, hydrogen transfer, alkylation, polymerization, cyclization and condensation. These also involved in the catalytic cracking process. Now this catalytic process, this comes from the cracking process. So there are two types: thermal cracking and the catalytic cracking. And when the cracking process is also called as a pyrolysis. So pyrolysis is also nothing but the breaking down of the large hydrocarbon molecules into the smaller hydrocarbon molecules by heat or catalytic action. Okay. So this when we called the cracking as a pyrolysis, when coal is our feedstocks. When the coal is used as a feedstock, then the cracking is called the pyrolysis process. Okay. Now this catalytic cracking process, which comprises a complex network of reaction, both intramolecular and intermolecular. So catalytic cracking comprises of complex network of reactions, both intramolecular and intermolecular. So conversion reactions of oil distillates occur mainly in the vapor phase at elevated temperature in the presence of cat cracking catalyst. Okay. So this conversion reaction of oil distillates in the catalytic cracking process occurs mainly in the vapor phase at elevated temperature in the presence of cracking catalysts. Okay. And these cracking reactions occurring at the active site of the catalyst. So these cracking reactions occurs on the active sites of the catalyst, which proceeds via carbonium ions mechanism that predominantly predominantly affects the formation of olefins, isomeric components and aromatics. Okay, which predominantly affects the formation of olefins, isomeric components and aromatics. So the latter via intermediate formation of cycloolefins. Okay. Next, the formation, this catalytic cracking used for the formation of low boiling olefins, branched alkanes, aromatics, favors which favors the production of gasoline with high octane levels. So this catalytic cracking helps to form the low boiling olefins, branched alkanes and aromatics. So these branching and providing these aromatics, these two also helps increase the octane values of that produced gasoline. Next is this catalytic cracking, the undesirable reaction. The in the catalytic cracking process, the undesirable reaction is the coke formation due to excess cracking. So this catalytic cracking produces the carbon which is in coke form. So this catalytic cracking produces carbon which remains on the catalyst particle and rapidly lowers its activity as it forms on the catalyst surface. So it lowers the activity of the catalyst. So this carbon formation or the coke decomposition is the undesired reaction of the cracking process. Okay. Now to maintain the catalyst activity at a useful level, so it is necessary to regenerate the catalyst by burning of this coke with air. So to maintain the catalyst activity, as this coke is formed over the catalyst surface, so it lowers the activity. Now it improves the, now we need to improve the catalyst activity to regenerate the catalyst. Okay, by burning of this coke with air. So as a result, the catalyst is continuously moved from the reactor where the catalytic reaction is going on to the regenerator where the catalyst regeneration is going on by burning of the coke with air, and then again that regenerated catalyst is sent to the reactor. Okay, so first catalyst is continuously moved from the reactor to the regenerator, then from the regenerator it again back to the reactor. So these are the catalytic cracking reactions. So there are few major catalytic cracking reactions, which are paraffins, which is converted to the smaller paraffins and olefins by cracking process. Then the alkyl naphthalene, which is converted to the naphthalene and olefin. Then we have the alkyl aromatic, which is also converted to aromatic plus olefin. Then we have the multi-ring naphthalene, which is also converted to the alkylated naphthalene with fewer rings. Now these are the major reactions of the catalytic cracking process. Now in this uh, reaction process, we can see that here the paraffins are converted to the smaller paraffins plus olefins. Now these olefins are converted to the LPG olefins, which is going on by the cracking process. Then by cyclization process it is converted to the naphthenes. Then again these olefins by isomerization process it converted to the branched olefins. Then again by hydrogen transfer it is converted to the branched paraffins. So from olefins by isomerization we can get these branched paraffins. Then by hydrogen transfer we can get these paraffins. Then again by cyclization we can get also the undesired product, which is coke. And then again by the condensation process we also got this coke formation. And then also dehydrogenation process we also get this coke formation. So this coke formation is the undesired reaction. Okay, this is the product from the undesired reaction. And then the alkyl naphthalene, which is converted to the naphthalene and the olefins. Here this naphthalene is converted to the olefins by cracking process. Then by dehydrogenation process it is converted first to the cycloolefins. Then it converted to the dehydrogenation process through to the aromatics. Okay, so first naphthenes using dehydrogenation process it converted to cycloolefins. Then again dehydrogenation process it converted to the aromatics. Then the isomerization process. So these naphthenes converted through this isomerization process to the product of naphthenes with different rings. Naphthenes with different rings. Now the major reactions we have the alkyl aromatic, which is converted the aromatic plus olefins. Now this aromatic is converted by side chain cracking process to the substitute aromatics plus olefins. And then trans alkylation process converted to different alkyl aromatics. Then again by dehydrogenation process that aromatics converted to polyaromatics. Then again by alkylation, dehydrogenation and condensation process there is a coke formation. Okay, there is a coke formation by alkylation, dehydrogenation and the condensation of this polyaromatics. We can get this coke formation. And this hydrogen transfer, whatever the hydrogen transfer is going on, it converted the naphthalene plus olefin. Then from this naphthalene and olefin converted to the aromatic plus paraffins. So we can see that from the large hydrocarbon molecules or the long chain hydrocarbon molecules we are getting the smaller hydrocarbon molecules. That is a smaller paraffins, branched paraffins. Okay, and naphthenes with different rings, aromatics, these different alkyl aromatics. Okay, so these will help to increase the octane number. So more degree of branching, more provide the aromatic compounds. Okay, it helps to increase the octane number. So large hydrocarbon in the catalytic cracking process, the large hydrocarbon molecules are breaking down to the small hydrocarbon molecules and provide high value products by providing the high octane values. Okay, and the undesired reaction is the coke formation. Undesired reaction is the coke formation. Then what are the advantages of this catalytic cracking process over the thermal cracking process? What are the advantages? First one is the lower production of C1 and C2 hydrocarbons. Lower production of C2 and C2 hydrocarbons to the credit of higher yields of C3 and C4 hydrocarbons. So this lower production of C1, C2 hydrocarbons to the credit of higher yields of C3 and C4 hydrocarbons, which can be used for the manufacture of isoparaffins for motor gasoline via alkylation and polymerization process. Okay, so this can be used for the manufacture of isoparaffins for motor gasoline and via alkylation and polymerization process. Next is the lower cracking temperature. Lower cracking temperature, which results in a reduced production of diolefins, thus improving the oxidation stability of the gasoline fractions. Lowering the cracking temperature, improving the oxidation stability of the gasoline fraction. Okay, next is the higher octane rating of gasoline. Higher octane ratings of gasoline by increase the formation of branched alkanes, naphthenes, or the cycloalkanes and aromatics. Okay, so these higher octane ratings of gasoline increased by increasing the formation of branching of alkanes, naphthenes, or the cycloalkanes and aromatics. Okay, next is the higher cracking reaction rate. So these higher cracking reaction rates allowing smaller dimensioning of plant equipment. Higher cracking reaction rates allowing the smaller dimensions of plant equipment. Okay, so these are the advantages of the catalytic cracking process over the thermal cracking process. So the catalytic cracking is one of the largest application of catalyst. Catalytic cracking is one of the largest application of catalysts in the petroleum refinery process, and the worldwide cracking capacity exceeds 500 million ton per annum. So the cracking capacity exceeds in worldwide by 500 million ton per annum. So this cracking is generally carried out in a moving bed reactor or a fluidized bed reactor. Cracking is generally carried out by a moving bed reactor or by a fluidized bed reactor. Now catalytic cracking was the first large scale application of fluidized bed. So catalytic cracking was the first large scale application of fluidized beds, which explains the name fluid catalytic cracking. It is also known as FCC, fluid catalytic cracking, and this fluid catalytic cracking is widely acceptable more than the moving bed reactor. Okay, so this FCC is more acceptable than this moving bed reactor system. So nowadays entrant flow reactors are also used instead of this FCC, but the name FCC is still retained. So nowadays these entrant flow reactors are used instead of this fluid catalytic cracking bed. So but the name FCC is still retained. Next is the role of this FCC, the fluid catalytic cracking, in the refinery process. So we can see here in the overall refinery flow, we have this crude oil, then it's sent to the atmospheric distillation process. From this atmospheric distillation process, the heavier one goes to the vacuum distillation, and from this atmospheric distillation process, whatever the straight run products and the light gas is going to the secondary treatment process. From the secondary treatment process, we are getting this LPG gas, and from the straight run naphtha, after the naphtha hydrotreating, and then again the isomerization process, and then the tertiary treatment process, which is the gasoline blending, we can get the value added products, which is gasoline. And then again we have this kerosene, which need to process through the hydrotreating, and then the gas oil, which also need to process through the hydrotreating process. And we can see in this overall refinery flow there is a FCC, the fluid catalytic cracking process. Here this is the fluid catalytic cracking process, this fluid catalytic cracking process. Okay, so here we can see that whatever the vacuum from whatever the products from the vacuum distillation is coming through the desulfurization process, and then it goes to the FCC. So after desulfurization process, after removal of the sulfur compounds from the products which is coming from the VDU unit, which is also the vacuum gas oil, which is the vacuum gas oil, after desulfurization it goes to the FCC unit. Okay, so fluid catalytic cracking unit, and this from this fluid catalytic cracking unit we can get the fuel oil. Okay, we can get the fuel oil or the FCC gasoline, and this gasoline again we need to upgrade the gasoline so that we can get the value added product based on the market demand. So then we need to the blending process for this gasoline. Okay, so here we can see from the vacuum residue, which is again goes through the thermal cracking, and after the desulfurization process it goes to this FCC unit. It goes to the FCC unit, means here we can see one the vacuum residue is goes through the thermal cracking, and then through the thermal cracking it goes to the FCC unit, and another part which is desulfurized and then again sent to the FCC unit. Okay, so this FCC unit, fluid catalytic cracking unit, plays a very important role in the refinery process, and which is a central role, which are having this FCC are having a central role when feedstocks such as hydrotreated vacuum gas oil, VGO, and atmospheric residue desulfurized, atmospheric residue desulfurized oil. Okay, so feedstocks are hydrotreated VGO, vacuum gas oil, and the atmospheric residue desulfurized oil. Okay, for this FCC, and role of this FCC is to take the heavy desulfurized feedstock and crack it into lighter and mainly high octane gasoline, crack it into lighter and high octane gasoline. So FCC also produce olefins and LPG. FCC also produce LPG and olefins. Okay, so sometimes this FCC is also called a example of process intensification in the refinery process. So next we will describe why this FCC is also called the process intensification in the refinery process. Okay, so here we can see this is the photo of a fluid catalytic cracking process in a plant. So here this is the reactor, and this is the regenerator part, and this is the main column. Okay, so this is the main column, and this is a reactor, and this is a regenerator. So here this fluid catalytic cracking produces more than half of world's gasoline. So this fluid catalytic cracking process produces more than that of the half of the world's gasoline. Okay, and typically FCC unit comprises three major sections. This FCC unit comprises of three major sections. First one is the riser or the reactor. Then there is a regenerator part, and then again it has the fractionator part. Okay, so three major sections are there for this fluid catalytic process. First one is the riser and the reactor, where the reactions are going on, and then there is a part regenerator, when the lower means the catalyst activity was regenerated and then again sent back to the reactor, and then we have the fractionation column. So three sections are there in this fluid catalytic cracking process. Next is some important details on this FCC. So as I have mentioned that the purpose is convert the heavy oils into gasoline or the light olefins. Okay, now what are the catalysts and additives used in this process? It is zeolite, rare earth oxides, ZSM5, platinum and disox. So these are the catalysts and the additives which is used. Zeolite is highly acidic and catalyzed cracking. Okay, so this is very highly acidic and which is used as a catalyst in cracking process. And rare earth oxide, this rare earth oxide increase the catalyst stability. Rare earth oxide, it increase the catalyst stability. And ZSM5, it increases the octane number and production of light olefins. So this ZSM is used to increase the octane number and the production of light olefins. Platinum promotes combustion of carbon monoxide and carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide in regenerator. So this platinum helps to promote the combustion of CO to CO2, carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide in regenerator. And this desox is used to transfer the sulfur oxides from regenerator to riser or reactor. So desox is used to transfer sulfur oxides from regenerator to riser or reactor. Then what are the feeds for this FCC? We have the feeds are atmospheric gas oil, vacuum gas oil, coker gas oil, deasphalted oil, lube extracts and the vacuum residue. These are the feeds which is uh, fed to the fluid catalytic cracking process. And what are the conditions of this FCC? First one is the feed temperature, which is having near about 150 to 370 degree centigrade. Reaction temperatures, which is 493 to 550 degree centigrade. Regenerator temperature is also 650 to 732 degree centigrade. Catalyst to oil ratio is need to maintain near about 4 to 10, and the reactor pressure is need to maintain near about to 170 to 343 kilopascal. 172 to 343 kilopascal. Now the fluid catalytic cracking, which are having a critical role or the important role or the central role in the refinery process, where the feedstocks mainly used are the hydrotreated vacuum gas oil and the atmospheric residue desulfurized oil. Okay, so these FCC units mainly depends on circulating the catalyst, the zeolite catalysts, with the vapor of the feed into a riser reactor for a few seconds. Okay, so these FCC units mainly depends on circulating the zeolite catalyst with the vapor of the feed into a riser reactor for a few seconds. Then it cracked the products which are disengaged from the solids. It cracked the products, and that products are disengaged from the solids and then taken out to a distillation column for the separation of desired products. After disengaging of these cracked products from the solids, it is taken out to a distillation column for the separation of the desired products. Then this catalyst is recirculated back in the regenerator. Then this catalyst is recirculated back in the regenerator, where the coke is burned and the catalyst is regenerated. In this regenerator, the coke is burned and the catalyst is regenerated. And after the combustion of this coke generates in the regenerator, after the combustion of the coke generates the heat. This heat is required to carry out the to carry out the endothermic reaction in the riser. This combustion of coke generates the heat which is required to carry out the endothermic reaction in the riser. So a higher value of these products caused by the cracking of larger molecules requires low operating pressure. Higher value of these products caused by this cracking of the larger molecules requires lower operating pressure, which is near about 1 to 5 bar, and high endothermic nature of cracking reactions require that the reactor operates at high temperature, near about 480 to 550 degrees centigrade. So high endothermic nature of cracking reactions requires the reactor to operate at high temperature, which is 480 to 550 degrees centigrade. Okay. So next, in this fluid catalytic cracking, as it is named the fluid catalytic cracking, so there is a fluidization property. Okay, so here we can see there is a fixed bed. First, it is having the lower velocity. When a fluid flows upward through a packed bed, this is the packed bed. When the fluid flows upward through a packed bed of catalyst particle at lower velocity, the particles remain stationary. Okay, so these particles remain stationary. When the fluid flows upward through a packed bed of catalyst particle at lower velocity, the particles remains stationary. Now as the fluid velocity increases, now we are increasing the fluid velocity, then the pressure drop will increase. And upon further increase in velocity and balanced of pressure drop times the cross sectional area is equals to the gravitational force of the particles mass. So again we are increasing, after further increasing in the velocity, a balance of pressure drop. First we increase the, when we increase the fluid velocity, we have the pressure drop. Now further increasing in velocity, there should be a balance of pressure drop, which is times to the cross sectional area, which is equals to the gravitational force on the particles mass, Okay, so then these particles begin to move. When this means balance will be equal, the pressure drop times to the cross sectional area equals to the gravitational force on the particles mass, then the particles begins to move. Okay, so this is called the minimum fluidization velocity, when the pressure drop times of the cross sectional area equals the gravitational force on the particles of the mass. So this is then called the minimum fluidization velocity. Then it is stable fluidization when it starts at a certain pressure drop. it will be stable fluidization when it start at a certain pressure drop. Now as the velocity increases, the bed expands. As the velocity is increases, the bed expands and bed porosity also increases. Here we can see as the velocity is, after further increasing of this velocity, so the bed expands and the bed porosity increases while the pressure drop remains practically unchanged. When the pressure drop practically remains unchanged, so these practical regions which includes all modes of fluidization. So when we have this high velocity, then in this practical region which includes all modes of fluidization such as bubbling, slugging, and also the pneumatic transport, the dilute phase pneumatic transport. So first, here we can see against the pressure loss in the y-axis, and we have this minimum velocity of fluidization. So for the first case, when we have the low minimum velocity of fluidization, so it has the it is incorporated in the fixed bed. Okay, then when we are increasing the fluid velocity further, means when we increase the velocity, then we have some pressure drop. Means with the velocity increases, the pressure drop also increases. Now further increasing in the velocity, we have the pressure drop times the cross sectional area, which is equals to the gravitational force, and then the particles starts to move, and which is called the minimum fluidization velocity. So this is done in this fluidized bed where the stable fluidization starts, okay, at certain pressure drop. Now we are having, if we increase the velocity further after this fluidization, if we increase the velocity further, the bed expands. Here we can see the bed expands and the porosity, bed porosity will increases and the pressure drops remains same. Then we have in this region bubbling, slugging, and also the pneumatic, okay, pneumatic transport of the particles. Okay, so this is the linear gas velocity, and this is the pressure loss, and this is the minimum fluidization velocity. So here we can see from the low velocity where we have the fixed bed, and when we have a certain high velocity we have the fluidized bed, and again if we increase the fluid velocity, we have the pneumatic transport where the bubbling, slugging, and the pneumatic transport are present. Okay, next is the location in this FCC. Location. So we have seen the modes of fluidization. What are the modes of fluidization in the FCC? Now modes of fluidization is happens in the FCC in the which section? In the regenerator. In the regenerator there is a turbulent fluidization. In the regenerator there is a turbulent fluidization. This turbulent fluidization is to attain the uniform burning temperature in bed. This turbulent fluidization is needed to attain the uniform burning temperature in fluidized bed, or in the regenerator section. Okay, and in the line of catalyst transport from regenerator to riser, and the line where the catalyst is transport from the regenerator to riser, means regenerator, here we can see this is the regenerator, to this is the riser. This is the diagram of the FCC, fluid catalytic cracking, which are having the reactor and the regenerator. This is the reactor reactor, and this is the regenerator. So from this regenerator, from this means first one is a regenerator, where the turbulent fluidization is going on to attain the uniform burning temperature in a bed. Then there is a line for catalyst transport, from regenerator to this riser. This line from regenerator to riser, there is a bubbling fluidization. This, here we have the bubbling fluidization. Okay. And then in the riser, we have the pneumatic transport, where the catalyst and the products, here the catalysts and products are carried out from riser, and plug flow has a few seconds of residence time. Okay. And next is in this stripper section. In the stripper section there is also a bubbling fluidization, where the steam is injected in the stripper to vaporize and recover heavy oil and reduce coke formation. Okay. And reduce the coke formation. And then we have the lift line from regenerator to reactor. This lift line from regenerator to reactor, there is also the modes of fluidization, which is called the pneumatic transport. So in the regenerator we have the turbulent fluidization, and then the line from where the catalyst is going to the regenerator to the riser, means here in this regenerator part we have the turbulent fluidization. Okay. Turbulent fluidization, and the line through where the catalyst from regenerator goes to the riser, there we have the bubbling fluidization. And then again we have this riser section, where we have the pneumatic transport of fluidization, where the catalyst and products are carried out from riser, and plug flow has a few seconds of residence time. Okay. Then in this stripper, where the bubbling fluidization is going on, here the steam is injected in the stripper to vaporize and recover of the heavy oil and reduce the coke formation. Okay. Then again we have this lift line from the regenerator to the reactor, where we also have the pneumatic transport of fluidization, where the bubbling, slugging all are present. Okay. So this is these are the modes of fluidization which I have described here. So here we can see the in the FCC riser and the reactor and the regenerator sections, this is the regenerator and this is the reactor. So hot oil feed is contracted with the catalyst. So hot oil feed is contacted with the catalyst in either feed riser line, this is the feed riser line, or in the reactor. This is also called a reactor, riser or the reactor. Hot oil feed is contacted with the catalyst in the riser section. Now as the cracking reaction progress, the catalyst is progressively deactivated. the catalyst is progressively deactivated by the formation of coke on the surface of the catalyst, and then whatever the catalysts means over there the coke is formed, that spent catalysts flows into the regenerator through this line. This spent catalyst or the used catalysts are sent to the regenerator to reactivate by burning of the coke deposits, with air. So here the spent catalysts are regenerated, and oil remaining on the catalyst is removed. Oil remaining on the catalyst is removed by steam stripping before the catalyst enters the regenerator. So before the catalyst enters the regenerator, so there is a stripping part by using the steam. By using this steam stripping, remaining oil on the catalyst is removed by this process, and then that spent catalyst is sent to the regenerator, and the oil vapors are taken from the overhead. Oil vapors are taken from the overhead to a fractionation tower for separation into streams having the desired boiling range. Okay. Now we can see that the cracking reaction means which is happened in the FCC in the riser or the reactor part. The cracking which is happening in this riser or the reactor part, it is endothermic, and the regeneration reaction which is going on in the regenerator, it is exothermic. So in the reactor the reaction is endothermic, and in the regenerator there is a exothermic reaction. But some units are designed to use the regeneration of heat. So some units are designed to use the regeneration heat to supply that the needed for the reaction and to heat the feed up to the reaction temperature. So this is also called the heat balance unit. Okay. So some units are designed to use the regeneration heat to supply that needed for the reaction and to heat the feed up to the reaction temperature. Okay, so that unit is called the heat balance unit. So FCC unit must have the heat balanced or they won't run. Okay, so FCC unit must have heat balance unit. FCC fluid catalyst cracking unit should have this heat balance unit or they won't run. Okay, so understanding the heat balance is the key to understand how the FCC variables interact. Now burning of the coke in the regenerator provides all the heat required by the process. So burning of the coke in the regenerator provides all the heat required by the process, and where the average riser reaction temperature means riser reaction temperature in the range of 900 to 1000 degree Fahrenheit or 480 to 540 degree centigrade, and with oil feed temperature from 500 to 800 degree Fahrenheit or 260 to 425 degree centigrade, and regenerator exit temperature for catalyst from 1200 to 1500 degree Fahrenheit or 650 to 815 degree centigrade. Okay, so these are the temperatures for the average riser reactor and the regenerator exit temperature. So we have the heat, regeneration heat, which is need to supply for the reaction and to and the heat to feed up the reaction temperature. Okay, so heat balance unit is a very important unit which need to there in the FCC unit, otherwise it won't be able to run. So this is the heat balance of this FCC unit, where predominant heat effects in FCC operations are endothermic cracking process. Predominant heat effects in FCC operations are the endothermic cracking process. The reaction process is the endothermic cracking process, which is here the heat of reaction, which is QRX. Okay, the endothermic cracking process, this is the predominant heat effects. And the exothermic coke combustion process, this is the exothermic coke combustion process, which is denoted by QRG, the heat by the regeneration. So feed preheating is done. This feed preheating is done to facilitate atomization and improve the vaporization upon contact with the catalyst. So this feed preheating is done to facilitate the atomization process and to improve the vaporization upon the contact with catalyst. So flue gas heat is recovered here. Flue gas heat is recovered from the heat generation or the regenerator unit. Here we can see that the flue gas is recovered. In this flue gas there are CO2, CO and sulfur oxides. Okay, so this flue gas is recovered from this regenerator. The flue gas is recovered here. So for the flue gas we have some heat which is QFG, and from this regenerator we have some heat losses which is QL1, and from the reactor also we have some heat losses which is QL2, and the products also having some heats which is QP, and whatever the used catalyst which is sent to the regenerator unit, it all that is called the spent catalyst, it is also having some heat which is QSC for the spent catalyst, and again for the regenerated catalyst which is also having some heat QRC, and QA the regenerated air having the heat, and then again we have the heat for the feed preheater. So if you balance this all heat, okay, we we need to balance this all heat in this FCC unit. Okay, we need to balance all this heat in the FCC unit. Now the regenerator temperatures are carefully controlled to prevent the catalyst deactivation by overheating. So regenerator temperature, these regenerator temperatures are carefully controlled to prevent the catalyst deactivation by overheating and to provide the desired amount of carbon burn off. And which can be done by by controlling the airflow to give a desired CO2 or CO ratio, carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide ratio in the exit flue gas, or the desired temperature in the regenerator. And the catalyst and hydrocarbon vapors are separated mechanically. Catalyst and the hydrocarbon vapors are separated mechanically. Flue gas and catalyst are separated by cyclone separators and electrostatic precipitators. Flue gas and the catalyst are separated by cyclone separators and electrostatic precipitators, and the catalysts in some units is steam stripped. Catalyst in some unit is steam stripped as it leaves to the regenerator to remove the adsorbed oxygen before the catalyst is contacted with the oil feed. Okay, before the catalyst is contacted with the oil feed. So here in the regenerator, temperatures are carefully controlled to prevent the catalyst deactivation by overheating, not for the coke decomposition, it is for the overheating. Because the regenerator temperature, as we mentioned, the regenerator temperature is very high, it is around 650 to 815 degrees centigrade. So this need to be controlled by the airflow to give a desired CO2 to CO ratio in the exit flue gas, in the exit flue gas, okay, or the desired temperature in the regenerator. Now this catalyst and the regenerator, catalyst and the hydrocarbon vapors are separated mechanically, and the flue gas and the catalysts are separated by the cyclone separators or the electrostatic precipitators. And here also we can see, so catalyst is steam stripped before it contacted with the oil feed, okay. So FCC unit uh, comprises of regeneration reactor both, okay, regeneration and the reactor both, the process it has in the fluid FCC unit. So in the next class we will elaborately discuss about the fluid catalytic cracking process, what are the reactions are going on in the fluid catalytic cracking process, and why it is called as the example of process intensification in the refinery process, okay. So these are the discussions about the catalytic cracking process. Thank you, students.